Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Kingdom of Kodiak. I'm Kodiak. With me today, Grand Duke Radiant Valimar, Knight of the Crown and Flame. How are you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad.
Fantastic.
It just started snowing here in Colorado in the Iron Mountains, so it's nice and cool.
Yeah. Well, I'll try not to keep you so you can get to work, but let's get to the bare necessities. Sorry, Sin. Would like to know, how long have you been playing the game?
So this is 2021, 11 years at this point.
Okay.
So yeah, it's been 11 years now. I think I took a little bit of a hiatus there, and like after 2 years of playing, and then came back, and it's been pretty much consistent since.
Awesome. And what brought you to the game?
A myriad of things. When I was in the military, I went to Defense Language Institute for languages, right? And one of my friends there ended up stationed at the same base that I was at in Omaha, Nebraska. And he invited me out to come check out some weird nerdy stuff that he was doing. And I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't think I'll be into this kind of thing. And Sir Coupe, Phil Wasta, was there and like hit me with a stick. I was like, there's no way that this nerd's gonna hit me with this stick and I'm not gonna hit him back. Right. So I fought back. I lost so much. I did not win, but I had so much fun. And it's kind of been, as he like to quote it, I dove headfirst in and have had zero regard for my own personal safety sense.
I feel like you're telling my story at that point. Yeah,
I think it seems to be a lot of people's stories for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you had mentioned it just before we went on camera. Can you tell us about your persona?
Yeah, so back when I started, I was part of a company that was very into L5R, Legend of the Five Rings, and Rokugan. So they were very big into the whole kind of pseudo Asian personas. And at the time, 2010, I didn't know too much about that kind of stuff. So I picked out a name, Zhang Haishuan. And I had a great time with it for a couple of years. But as I started to become a better person and learn about culture appropriation, I realized that perhaps not a good look for me, a white dude, to be portraying a Japanese persona when I knew nothing about the culture. Because at that point, yeah, it's yeah. So I transitioned to Ormar, which was a Varangian name, and Varangians are historically, they're kind of Rus mercenaries from like the Scandinavian area up there. So Vikings, essentially. It's later period Vikings that became mercenaries for like what would now be Ukraine and Russia, that were very specialized, like personal guard. So Ormar was that name for the longest time, actually until this year, when I decided to transition towards my newest Amtgard fancy, which is bringing in the kind of 40K Warhammer theme to Amtgard. And a lot of my persona stuff has been heavily focused around the Adeptus Custodes. For those who don't know, they're essentially, again, the personal guard of the Emperor. So there's a bit of a theme there. But a lot of the Custodes names have V's in them. So I just added Val to the front of my name. I initially started playing around with a V, but just went Val. And then did quite a little bit different spelling. So Valorimar is the thing, but it's pulling off the same big characters from that world as Valdor and Valores. And yeah, so Valorimar is now the name. And 40K Adeptus Custodes is kind of the theme.
I don't want to get hung up on this question too much, but you have chosen to transition your name. Was it part of an RP experience that did that, or a objective that you hit, or did you just decide it was time?
I think so. A little bit of that, right? Like I've been playing for, like I said, 11 years now, and a lot of my Amtgard career, I guess you could say, has been focused on leadership office and service. And I've enjoyed that very much, but there's also a certain point where you're no longer as effective in those roles in holding those positions all the time, and you got to step aside. And I'm definitely to that point, I feel, because if I push more into it now, then I just get more invested, and it becomes a little bit more toxic for myself if I don't see the changes in things that I want to see. And that's not what I wanted with being in leadership anyway. I wanted to make this thing a fun thing for me.
Right.
So it's definitely time. It was definitely time for me to transition to focusing on like playing the rest of Amtgard, which is a thing I'd kind of taken a step back from. Part of that was because of my focus on leadership. Part of that was because of my health stuff, which is bouncing back. So yeah, it was definitely I want to battle game more. I want to role play more. I want to be on the field, swinging foam and casting magic.
Well, and I'm not going to get hung up on it, but it sounds like the Emperor, like when the Emperor dies and like the Primarchs, it seems like, yeah, okay, I'm following.
It's in Rivermore there for a little while. They had a whole storyline that I was actually the Emperor on the Iron Throne because I had moved from Rivermore out to the Iron Mountains. It was a really good little rain bit that they did because we played off the 40k theme for a while, and now I kind of feel like it's getting past. I'm no longer on the Iron Throne.
Fair enough. Okay. So what award or achievement would you say you're most proud of receiving?
This one's actually, it's a custom award. It was given to me again in Rivermore before I moved out to the Iron Mountains. This would have been 2016. I'd lived out there and played Amtgard there my entire Amtgard career at that point. Mm-hmm. Now it's, it was 5 years ago, so it's only half my experience. But right. At that time, everything was Rivermore for me. And I had fully immersed myself into the Rivermore culture, the Rivermore kingdom. And part of that process was going from Principality of Rivermore, which is what we were when I started there, to the Kingdom of Rivermore. And I was a big part of the push of getting people motivated to see that through, because we had some like internal drama that a lot of people felt because of this internal drama meant that Rivermore would not be able to become a kingdom. Okay. And I feel I was definitely instrumental in encouraging people to get past that hang up and push through to becoming a kingdom. Oh. So when I stepped down as Emperor of Rivermore after my term there, and when I was about to move out to the Iron Mountains, they granted me with the award, the Heart of Rivermore. And I loved it. It's an amazing award. It's actually the award itself is like, imagine if you were trolling somebody and you took like just like a picture of them and superseded it over another picture of somebody else type thing. They took a, oh man, for any of y'all who are religious, I deeply apologize. They took a picture of Jesus as like this, like with the big saint thing with like the heart and the spikes coming out of it and like the crown of thorns, and placed my face over it, and then had a long like just like scroll work with it. That it's a ton of fun. It's one of my favorite awards, not only because of like it's a funny looking award, but like it meant a lot in like my soul, my heart.
That's great. Yeah, sorry for anyone who's religious, but that's funny.
Yeah, it was very good. I cried.
So what would you say is your favorite battle game?
This one's kind of, I think it's less so much of like, what is my favorite battle game period, but like, what is my favorite type based on the kind of play? Sure. Because there's different environments, right? Like obviously you have your small team environment where you're like small team on small team, or like objective environments. Large battle game wise, my favorite was at Keep in 2000. I want to say 16. I believe that was the year that that Denny was running it, and it was like a big battle game where there was like close to 100 people on each side, a little more than that, open field, and there was dragons that were supposed to be attacking or like doing a field effect, and the field was cut into sections, and if you were in a specific section when one of the dragon attacks went on, you essentially died. But it was the closest thing to like just having, like imagine like a ditch line of 100 people on each side, but now imagine they're all casting magic at each other. Like it was just like a constant, like people kept flowing into each other and like the line would move back and forth. It was very cool. Like very much kind of the war feeling that you always want to try to get with Amtgard that you don't very often get. Right. Yeah, they accomplished that with this event because there were enough people participating and it was large enough and like condensed enough that there wasn't like a field advantage to like split up into smaller teams. So it was like line on line pushing back and forth, and you never see that really anywhere other than
super cool.
It was so much fun. Yeah, no, I dug the hell out of
That is awesome. Uh, what's your favorite class to play?
that has actually been a thing I've been kind of reevaluating. For the
Mhm.
first 10 years of my Amguard career, I fell into this school of like melee only, so militia only. So I started off playing assassin as every, you know, kid does, and transitioned to warrior and kind of played those both a bit, and then transitioned to scout. And during that time, I messed around a little bit with like barbarian and some of the casting stuff, but the casting stuff I did play around with that I liked the most was bard. Always was bard. I love kind of the crowd control aspect of it and a little bit of the alacrity that like kind of boosting up your friends, but not in a way of like you're powering them up. You're just kind of like increasing their abilities and stuff. I loved that. So when I decided to kind of like reevaluate how I'm playing Amguard, Bard was what I went back to and like looked at focusing on. And I'm actually one of my squires, Soup. She's been like super helpful in helping me kind of put together different types of spell lists for different types of gameplay for playing with Bard.
Nice.
So I would say Bard is going to be my favorite to play with.
Okay.
But if it's not Bard that I'm playing, it's definitely it's Paladin now.
Yeah, I still haven't dipped my toes in those. Not going to. Personal. That's not.
Oh, no, it's fine.
uh, so Devrick would like to know what's your favorite weapon set to go with when you're playing Amguard?
Again, this is the metagaming part of me is always like whatever that opponent's weak against, right? Because I'm pretty comfortable with all sets. But if I'm honest, the two sets that I prefer and that I love is polearm,
Mhm.
right at about 7.5 foot to 8 foot in length. So not like a war pole, kind of more like your speed pole, but not too short. And then Florentine. And Florentine, I think that's probably every rogue in the world will say that that's like the thing we focus on pretty heavily. So
Well, I mean, Florentine's the right answer.
yeah.
It's certainly not sword and board. That's no. It's just quick. I'm RPing that I'm playing Infernal Descendant because my sword is cursed, so I'm forcing myself to play sword and board with the idea that the kingdom will eventually be like, "Why is he doing that? He hates that."
That's
so I
great.
can so I can pay my penance, but I hate sword and board. It's atrocious. So but I'm doing it because I want the RP part of it.
That's great.
Those are the bare necessities. Sorry, Sin. Let's get to the three questions KOK viewers have been asking since episode 1, and since we're on 87, they've been asked for a minute. Sir Glenalth should have received a toaster from Sir Elicard, from me, from Calthrax. Should Sir Glenalth get a soda maker?
Does Glenalth like soda?
He doesn't drink soda, but he makes soda bread.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Yes. Bread. Yes. Freya would like to know, are bears overrated?
I hate to say this, Kodiak, but as my friend Colbert once said, bears are actually the #1 enemy of the United States. No, they are not overrated. They are a very serious problem.
Well, I mean, thank you, but no, yeah, okay. So
sword there.
Well, still, I would like to know, who's your favorite bear?
You ever seen that picture of it's the Soviet bear?
Yeah.
And he says, "Work harder, comrade."
Mm-hmm.
That is my Slack icon at work. I would say that is my favorite bear.
Okay.
And my understanding is that is a grizzly bear. I may be mistaken. I'm not quite sure. But
Yeah.
Any of those bears that the Russians have trained to kind of act like people, love it. Those are my favorite bears.
Well, Kodiak's alternate persona is that he is trained by humans to just have duct tape swords to his hands. So I'll take the points this week. That'll be 500 points for Kodiak.
I would say if you were fishing for a compliment, I think that yes, you're my favorite bear.
We did it. We did it. It's taken like 7 weeks for someone to just say that, even if it was just fishing for a compliment. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Valorimar, what is your thoughts on Dragon Spine getting a mobile pool and or jacuzzi?
The adult part of me says it sounds expensive
Mm-hmm.
and that logistically would be very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And that me understanding how amp guards and logistics work says that may not be realistic. But
Sure,
the
for sure.
human part of me, the rest of me, says hell yes. And why
Yes.
hasn't it been done yet?
Yep.
Especially since y'all are in a desert, this feels like a bare necessity. I'm not sorry, Sin, whoever that is.
Yeah, I don't know either. It took a weird guy with a talk show to actually even get that question off the ground, and here we are, and we still don't have one. How would you fund it?
This is a great question because this kind of backs into a little bit of my most recent AmpGuard experience of trying to figure out marketing and revenue for our organization in a way that doesn't pull from the coffers of our individual people. Because like some of us are doing okay financially and with our jobs and stuff like that. But when we get to that point, we realize that spending all of our money on AmpGuard is perhaps not a wise decision.
Yes.
So we're very excited and happy to try to find other means to do it because I do not want to continue asking kids that make, it like they save up to go to the one event of the year. Like that's rough. And to be like, hey, we can have these nice things, but you got to pay more for it. And like you've already scraped by just to come to this event. So I would actually see if you could get like sponsors, maybe like that jacuzzi club, right? Be like, hey, we're a LARP organization. We have access to all these other like nerdy LARPs and stuff like that. And not a lot of them have really bought into owning a jacuzzi yet. So they are definitely potential customers. If you sponsor us and let us have this thing, we could potentially be opening the door to a bunch of LARPers to eventually buy jacuzzis. Maybe not this year. You got to play the long game, right?
Yeah.
10, 20 years from now.
Right. Because we don't want to ask players to pay for stuff inside of the game. We want players to pay for stuff outside of the game, right?
Exactly. Well, you can't come to AmpGuard if you don't have your home life figured out, right?
Yeah.
Like that at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to, right? So if you can get some other schmuck from the outside to pay for your fun, I say go that route.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right. Well, those are the questions KQ viewers have been asking since episode 1. Let's get to your questions. And we're going to start with the new traditional starter. Valorimar, what is your biggest flex or your weirdest flex?
Brittany and I have been dating now for almost 4 years. But when we first started dating, I used to say, man, it'd be really weird if only one of us was a crown knight. Or if only one of us had a masterhood. And then she got a masterhood before I did and was like, man, it's really weird that I have a masterhood and you don't. So we used to go back and forth being like, man, it's really weird that that I'm a knight. She's like, man, it's really weird that I have a masterhood. I'm like, rude.
Okay. All right. This question is stayed in, of course, because it has a bear pun. Are you the torch bearer of any particular skills?
This is a hard one because it asks for a lack of humility and sometimes self-bragging is a little difficult. Back whenever I was still in Rivermore and kind of building up, and right before I moved out to the Iron Mountains, Goldcrest once quoted that I was notably good at delegation and known to be good at delegation, and like that was a thing he had heard from other people. So therefore, the longest time I was like, damn, that feels good to have a Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force and Goldcrest, the gold standard, say, yeah, you're pretty good at delegation. I'm like, yes, thank you. Little did he know that as we all experience is probably the closest to a big lie too, because you always have to do everything yourself or it's not done right at all.
It's a matter of being with a team, right? Because then you could still influence the overall decision without handing it off to someone entirely.
And that has kind of been the direction that I've tried to pull, managing, figuring out the leadership role, because doing it yourself is exhausting. And we like to try to keep our leaders in this game. So I highly recommend to all of you potential leaders and aspiring leaders, do not be afraid to ask people to do things. Part of your role as a leader is to ensure the thing gets done. You don't have to do it yourself. find people you trust to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And when it gets done, some people will be like, oh man, you did a good job on that. You'd be like, that was gives you a great opportunity to put somebody else up on the pedestal, which is always feels great. Be like, no, Soup did this thing, or no, Kelladry, Brittany did this thing. So I always say delegate, because it gets other people out there too.
Yeah, for sure. We just did a big Kapora switch this last year, and we got a bunch of people involved with it who would typically hadn't been involved with Kingdom level stuff, and now those people are taking Kingdom Office almost off the back of doing the Kapora work, and it's worked out so well. And we talked off camera that I just got away from Kingdom Office, and it's so nice to see that the foundations of the leadership being built in a team, just helping with a Kapora, now leading our kingdom. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it feels great. It feels real good to be able to, oh, my babies, look at them fly away. Yeah. All right. Lightning would like to know. You know Lightning. Everyone knows Lightning. What's your favorite garb that you own?
I have 2 sets. The first one was made by Lady Armstrong out of Polaris. She is now a master garber. I don't know if they have knighted her yet in Serpent. They should have. She is very talented in regards of taking an art concept and putting it onto garb. So I think folks have seen I call it the Stone Ward tunic, but it is a tunic that is maroon with kind of black and white trim that has strength, determination around the arms, and then around the bases that will stand where others fall. But it's based on the Knights Radiant from Brandon Sanderson's book series, the Stormlight Archives. And that tunic it's gorgeous. I love it so much. I've now had it for 5 years, I believe, and it is still in pristine shape. Like tunics generally that I wear, especially ones that I wear that much, like don't last, but she built this one to last, and I appreciate that so much from her. But also, it's just a dope tunic. Anybody who has a Lady Armstrong tunic would agree too. They're all dope tunics. My second one is actually it's a whole compilation. You saw a little bit of the armor that I posted in that picture, right? Some of the newer armor that I have is more 40k lore, but the garb that I wear with it is a plain gray tunic, and then kind of like brown, white, and yellow pants. And they're very basic from the core up. And when I started wearing more garb like this, I really started liking it because it allowed me to layer, but it also looked really good without being a lot. So it'd be like just a gray tunic, 2 chains, a hood, and then pants with a belt. And like that look can really bring to life Amp-Guard while not being a ton, which is, I wanted to wear stuff like that more often to encourage people who want dope garb game, but don't really know what to do with it, to see that like you could still have just basic stuff and make it look amazing. So that's my second favorite one, because it's just very comfortable.
Awesome. No, that I think the idea of like having gloves and a hood and maybe a bandolier for more of the RP, and the boots are things that like people will put on the back burner for their garb, but like once you get it, you just feel more like you're in.
And even you could even just do, like I said, the plain basic tunic, basic pants, so you can start focus on getting the nicer boots, getting the nicer belt, getting the nicer hood, because those things are going to be the things that people look at, right? Your tunic, everybody's wearing a tunic, right? You'll look at your tunic, but those extra little accoutrements are going to be the things that people are like drawn to. They see they're the things that are different. They're the things that like your eyes are just like, oh, that's not the same as everything else here. And they're not that expensive. They really aren't. I think that's the thing is like they feel inaccessible, but like if you know where to find them, they can be pretty easy to get a hold of and pretty nice too. Yeah. For example, Lightning, who asked the question, made me one of my favorite hoods. It's my Master Lion hood, and I generally wear it to almost everything that I do in terms of like video stuff. I didn't wear it today because it is somewhere in the back of my car, which is covered in a little bit of snow.
Speaking of hoods, did you see the one that Dame Cat made me?
Let me pull it up really quick.
Gorgeous.
I gotta check this out.
I love it so much. Um, I saw her at the Burning Lands end rain last weekend, and I was still gushing over it because it matches my black Order of the Ash tunic,
Oh,
and
nice.
orange is my favorite color. And she got this just chef kisses.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
I'm checking it out right now. Very good.
yes.
Very good.
Uh, but I'll keep moving forward so that you're not trapped in the snow here. Kenjin has 4 questions based around the armor in the photo that you submitted to do with your 40K character. How long did it take to procure or create? Did you do it yourself or did you have someone else do it? Um, what is is it a special park event thing or is it? It seems to be just photos. I see you in the photos with it a lot.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, that armor, um, there are two different sets. The one that was in the picture that I posted it's called Inquisitor armor, and it is from um, Art Hammer. They are a Ukraine-based LARP armor making company. But yeah, if you just look up Art Hammer, their stuff will come up, and they have amazing armor kits. They have elven armor kits, dwarven armor kits, just like standard paladin armor kits. They have a little bit of the 40K thing stuff. If you're into Warhammer, they've got all of it. They have, they even have Slaneshi, Khorne, Zenith, and Nurgle armor as well. So if you're into the 4 Chaos Gods, they have those also. Demon type armor. When I was looking to upgrade my armor kit, this is early 2020. So 2020 hit, COVID hit, and I was like, well, I ain't gonna be playing Amcard for a bit, so why don't I just work on improving that armor game? I started looking at like Arm Street. Arm Street's a pretty well known supplier for LARP gear, and they had like really nice armor kits that were like full metal, but they were like $4,000 or $5,000, and I was like, there's no fucking way. Or I could do it, but I also now have this full armor that's like metal, and my health still wasn't doing great. I was like, I don't want to run around for 5 minutes and then die because I have all this weight. I want something lightweight, but that looks good. So I started looking around just to kind of see if there was stuff out there. I came across Art Hammer, and they have the Inquisitor set and the Paladin set, and I ended up getting both. The Inquisitor set as is the one in the picture, and I got that one first to kind of see if it would be a thing that would work. And then the Inquisitor or the Paladin set's the one I got second, and that's the one that like I love way more. But it is also technically not legal for Amcard right now with our pinning round rules. There are some sharp points on it that I am working on adjusting so that I can play an Amcard with it.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's super cool armor, super great for court. The Inquisitor armor I can wear on the field. I've just also been champion lately, so I haven't really got the chance to fight with this gear. But then the Paladin armor is still not legal for the field. But again, very cool. So I wear it at every court event that I possibly can.
That's awesome. That's great. And yeah, now I've typed while you were giving the description, I typed Art Hammer in because now I have things to do. Well, I'm sure Emily will be very upset if I say that I'm going to do that, but
it's surprisingly not that expensive for what it is. Right, like the Paladin armor, the full set was just a little over $1,000, but that is a full set of armor that looks that quality, and it's made from fiberglass and latex. I would not recommend intense fighting with it, but that's because I've dropped pieces on the concrete accidentally and it chipped, so it's brittle, but it's definitely flexible. So like Amcard combat for the most part will be fine. But if you're trying to like do Dagahir or Rag or Belagarth, maybe not.
no.
Yeah,
Why
not the armor for those.
Deverick, Stormcrest, and myself. Do you know Deverick, right?
I believe so.
He was an IMer for a minute. But we built Alliance characters. We're gonna go try out Alliance at some point.
Okay.
And that armor would probably be fantastic for that as well.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. It is definitely more of a role play, live action role play versus foam combat, which we have here. It still works for foam combat, but as you get into the heavier hitting, probably not good for that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right. Melanie Songtailor would like to know, what's your favorite crafting skill?
For the longest time, it was silk painting. I used to
Mm,
do like I would like draw out silk banners, right? Lyndon actually has one of my silk banners that we did as a trade for her to make the Rivermore Kingdom Scroll. So
mhm.
we traded. I made her a nice silk banner. She made us a Kingdom Scroll. It was very good.
Nice.
Um, I know I've enjoyed the crap out of doing silk banner painting because it was something I could do steady with my hands, but it was also a thing that helped me practice my patience
Mhm.
because it is a skill that like while you can draw a picture relatively quickly, even if you can draw relatively quickly, this is a skill that like takes time and like easing because you're using gravity whenever you're applying these materials.
Okay.
That it forced me to take my time. Like there was no quick way to do it. You can't do it quick and be good at it. You
Hmm.
have to go slow. Which I'm sure anybody who does any sort of art at a higher level realizes that truly, like, don't rush. Like you could probably get good and eventually do things faster, but like if you want to do well, you don't rush. And this was one of those things that it forced me to take my time and to focus on the thing, which pretty good for any of us, right? To
Yeah, yeah, for
maybe
sure.
take a slow it down a little bit.
Nice. I like that. That's awesome. Well, that's actually a really great transition to the next question. Of course, it's in still because it does have a bear pun in it, and we promote bear puns here. What would you consider to be a bare necessity uh, of new amp garters that they should be focusing on?
Um, Whenever somebody says you should focus on these things, ignore the should part. You came to AmpGuard, right? To have fun.
Mhm.
Find the things that you enjoy and that you want to uh, invest your time in and focus on those. Right. If you get to the point where you want to give back to that community, do it. But don't feel like you should. The entire organization is a volunteer organization based around the idea that we're all coming here to have fun. So that I think is the thing that you should focus on is find what is fun for you and do that. And if it doesn't quite exist the way you would like it to, feel free to push for it to exist or to be that, that change, obviously. But
Yeah.
yeah, like find the thing you like and focus on that. Don't try to conform to any sort of like mold of this is what you should be doing, right? I don't know. It's definitely a thing that I tell myself, right? Like stop stop doing stuff. Have fun. It's supposed to be fun.
Right. It's your hobby, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
It is, right? And if I'm being honest, like we always like to make the joke that like leadership and service is like not necessarily fun. That's a lie. That's an absolute lie. Don't believe me when I say that. It is a line of language that I've adopted that's not honest. I enjoy leadership. That's why I've done it for so long.
Yeah.
Um, and I want to keep enjoying it. So that's why I take a step back.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like we talked about this before, but interesting times in Dragonspine where our veteran players, our Randall and Dalsas and Agile Jades, our Glen Alls, we're stepping back,
Yeah.
and it took the next set of people willing to do it. And some of us, I will be celebrating my fourth year playing Amp Guard in January.
Wow.
But I've been king. I've been in Kingdom Office for 2 years. I was part of the Kapora team. Like it, it is fun. Like you find
Yeah.
the people that just enjoy it, and it's like
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how long you've been playing. You enjoy this, great, do this.
Exactly.
Yeah, super good. Um, Still would like to know if you could tell us about your heraldry.
Yeah. So the original concept of my heraldry, I drew up while I was stationed in Afghanistan
Mm,
for a short tour, and at the time, I it had meaning for that kind of role, and it still does a little bit. But like I drew up the wings to kind of mean like the way I was doing my job is like we're swooping in fast and hard to take out our enemies type thing. It's yeah, it was definitely a time in my life that I'm like, ooh, some of a little problematic, right? But the wings with the sword to base, right, as it's called, it's forward facing down through the center. That was kind of like an indicator of like swooping in to like handle the thing immediately, get it done, and go. Now I would say that it's got a similar vibe, but more for the amp guard experience of like there are no legs on those wings. So like it's I have kind of made that my Phoenix, right? Yeah, everybody has a Phoenix symbolism, right? It's
Yeah.
just the two Valkyrie wings for me, and there are no legs on it because there is no rest for service. Um, don't take the toxic side of that. You can take a break; it's fine. And then the sword to base portion, obviously, is the fighting path, and then the circle in the background is actually drawn from the bad guys from the second series of Avatar.
Okay.
So he had that big red circle, right, and that was supposed to represent equality. For me, though, it is my desire to try to be an equitable person to everybody they interact and deal with. Definitely a thing I have to work on, as anybody who can be a critique to how I interact with people can say is we always have the things to work on, but that is a thing that I value most. Yeah. And there are some versions of it that has a serpent wrapped around the sword coming up.
Okay.
Kind of the same concept, and then also a crown over the top. But artistic interpretation, I think it ends up kind of looking like that one. There it is. Boom.
Nice.
Um,
Oh, that's skill right there. To like correct. There it is. Nice. Cool. All right. Version 9 is starting to be worked on, and Kato
Yeah.
still has this question on my list, even though people have stated their opinion. Back shields for V9.
This is a weird line where it comes to what kind of role play foam combat do we want to experience? Do we want to have the thing where it's, well, technically by the rules, you weren't wielding it, so it doesn't count, or it's a shield and it's on your back?
Mm-hmm.
In real combat, a shield on your back would be pretty effective at like blocking one shot. I mean, after that, who knows?
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, I'm totally cool with back shields. I have seen those in play at Daga here, and I loved it. Right, like it was like a nice, it's like a quick sluff shot type thing, right? And if you're really good at like the whole back twist thing, where you do like the 360 spin, no scope, swipe at somebody's back, and you have a shield on your back, and they hit you in the back on the way through because that's your most vulnerable spot for the whole thing, and you have a shield. You just like, yeah, no, shield bar.
All right.
So I've seen plenty of guys go through and pull that little cute shot at Daga here and have the back shield and be like, oh, got him.
Oh God. Fine, Kato. It lives on. It lives on. There's nothing we could do about it at this point. Morgan would like to know, what's your favorite amp card event?
Damn, that is a great question.
Only the tough ones on KOK.
I have 3 favorites, and each for a completely different reason. The first one that I will say is it's the big leadership one, right? Gathering of the Crowns. I will not call it anything else. I am very sorry, Burning Lands folks. I will not call it anything other than Gathering of the Crowns. That is what it is in my heart, and that's what it will remain. The other name's problematic, guys. Change it, please. It's 2021.
Or just GOTC works just fine.
GOTC is great. It's the letters, but like having the crowns.
Yeah.
Crowns. Just call it crowns. That's what it is, right? And it's your event. You get the pinnacle event, crowns. That event for me is one of my favorites because of it's the receipt for how much people care about the organization. I don't think there's been a single COM meeting that I've gone to where there haven't been arguments. And there have been like heated discussions, right? And a lot of people are like, man, that sucks. And I hate that about the COM, or I hate this about this event. Like, no, I love it because that means that we have people who give a shit about the organization enough to go into a room full of complete strangers and argue their point. So long that everybody is going to that event being honest, and you can everybody can tell really quick if people are being sincere with the points that they're trying to fight, right? But I appreciate getting to see each kingdom participate and show that it cares about this organization and that it wants what's best for it. And that it's not always the same. Like, it highlights the value of diversity. It can also be a little bit frustrating, right? That sometimes people are not on the same page that you are in terms of what you believe diversity is versus what they believe diversity is. But I still think it is like a very integral thing towards the whole democracy of our organization. And I greatly appreciate it. We used to have a representative from New Mexico come out and kind of give a pre-COM meeting discussion. And he talked about, like, he identified that was one of the cool things about AmpGuard, is that we can have these discussions that last a day or maybe longer. But like, at the end of the day, things happen, changes happen, discussions happen, and people come to the table honestly to make those changes happen. Very rarely are there topics that get pushed down the line very, very far. And if they are, generally it's because they need to, and they need to take some more like consideration at the time. But no,
is that Bill that did the
Bill McKinley?
I'm in a football chat with Bill.
Bill is a wonderful human being. If you ever got to follow his Facebook feed on like how politics worked for him when he was there, the discussions they had, I love that he would break it down in layman and just talk about the things that they were working on and discussing. Like, I don't even need to know what your political affiliation is to know that that is good leadership, to break a thing down into the layman term and talk about what everything is and what it means and why it's valuable. Love that about Bill.
Totally. Absolutely. I'm gonna have to tell him that we brought him up today. Yeah, that's great. So you said you had 3. That was GOTC gathering the crowns. Let's get those other 2.
I just went out to Feast of the Dead in Crystal Groves.
Okay.
And that event was my first big event. I say big event. I went to a Rivermore event that had a lot of people, but the Crystal Groves event was big. I loved it. It like rekindled my love for battle gaming, for social interaction, just for events in general. It was a ton of fun. So it was a very like nice thing to have in 2021 after COVID, after like so many years of not having a large scale social event, to go to this event that I've never been to before, that I don't know anybody but like maybe 5 people from online, and have such a great time. Like, that to me, that was like it. That's the core of AmpGuard, right? You can go to any park, any event, anywhere in AmpGuard, and generally that's the kind of experience you'll have. Tons of fun. It's great to see that our community thrives that way, to where you can just pull yourself from one location, drop it another, and then have a great time. And then the last one is super nostalgic for me. Known World War, the first one. The first Known World War was originally was an event that we were going to call Battle of the Moors, because at the time we were still Principality of Livermore, and Emerald Hills had a principality named Dreadmore. And both of us wanted to kind of make our own inter-kingdom event, rather than having like our own, like, we have one and y'all have one and then we share. Like, we just wanted to be like, no, we're going to share one event. It's going to be kind of in the middle between us both, and we're going to invite everybody to it, type of thing. But during that planning time, like, we started coming up with some really cool concepts, and we were going to make it like a true like kingdom war event. So kingdom on kingdom on kingdom type thing, right? Versus company or small team, stuff like that. And the idea was we wanted to grow this thing into something to be on the opposite season of Keep, and try to pull from the same people. We wanted it to be like, Keep is in the fall, this is in late spring, this is before summer, stuff like that. Unfortunately, weather in that area is either really cold or immediately transitions into tornado season. So not the greatest. Yeah. But the first event was only a Friday, Saturday, Sunday event, and we had 340 people through the door. And it was Dreadmore, unfortunately, folded like 6 months before the event. So we transitioned to, we're like, we got to have a single syllable or like easy name monikers. You have Keep, right? Like that's very easy to remember. Keep on the Borderlands, Keep, call it Keep. Gathering of the Crowns, GOTC, call it GOTC Crowns, right? So we wanted to call it K-Dubs, Known World War. So K-Dubs was the short for it. We decided this is great. I think Kenny Aldi, Bjorn from Rivermore, was actually the guy that quoted that one in a chat that we were in. And I was like, that's perfect. I'm taking it. I'm stealing it. I'm fucking going. Let's go. But yeah, no, Kenny was the original guy who quoted that one. And yeah, it was a ton of fun. We had Emerald Hills, Tal'Dagor, and Rivermore all in the same field, like fighting each other, kind of like in this 3-way battle type thing. Nice. And it was a great time. Everybody came out and like we said, hey, we're gonna have to raise the gate a little bit to make sure we can afford this, and everybody was like, this is totally cool. It's still very cheap. I would pay twice this and still be cool with it. Everybody was just so kind going into that event. So yeah, it was a great time. And then so the nostalgia that came from that event though was that everybody from Rivermore, everybody from Emerald Hills, everybody from Tal'Dagor all came together to like make this thing happen. And there's a little bit of that bad blood right between kingdoms that haven't interacted a lot over the years. So to, like, to see people just set that aside and be like, nah, let's play Amtgard and have fun, fam. That was great. And that event, it happened.
Cool. That's awesome. I keep coming back to things I'm doing, and I'm trying to get an event that's opposite to our Maze event.
Yeah.
In the Arizona region, and a little bit more RP centric and whatnot. And wow, just that's inspiring. That's what you like to see. Sorry, there's like, I got a camera here, but like I want to look here because that's where I am, but you're over here. I don't know if anyone.
I feel it. You're on the bottom of my screen. I have my camera right above it, so yeah. I feel it.
So Sir Smiley would like to know, what's the greatest lesson you learned now that you wish you had learned then?
You don't have to do it. You don't have to do everything. You don't have to be the person that does that thing. In fact, you probably shouldn't. If you feel that you have to be the one to do it, you should probably take a step back. Things may not be necessarily the same, but things will function if they're meant to function, right? Like if people want the thing to work, people will eventually step up. It may falter a little bit. It may fall apart. It may not be the ideal version of what you want, but people will step up. Rivermore, for example, I was very fearful that a lot of the projects that I wanted to finish weren't done when I was stepping away, and that like things might fall through. And things did fall through. And that's absolutely okay, because they're still functioning as a kingdom. They're still having fun swinging foam, playing Amtgard. It's been 5 years. It's that weird perspective of when you're in that leadership role and you're like, no, everything relies on me. And the reality is it doesn't. It does while you're there in that moment, but as soon as you're gone, you pass it off to somebody else, and now it's their responsibility. But ultimately, it's everybody's, right? So, yeah, you don't have to be the one to do it.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Amtgard is not artwork in itself. You don't make it, and then it's only ever yours. It's everyone's.
It is super fluid, and it does belong to everybody. It's not yours.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Cool. I like that. All right, let's dive a little deeper now. What fighting companies or households are you in?
A couple of them. So we'll start off with fighting companies first. Rogue Company. That is the group that I've been with the longest overall. Rogue Company, I joined right after I got back from Afghanistan, initially because I was just like, I want to fight, I want to whack, I want to win. And I had a lot of friends that were in Rogues. My knight, Frank, or Shadow as people know him, and Rainan, Joanna, are both in Rogue Company. So I had built up relationships there. And then I'd known Marianne for years. And I'd become friends with Jay Lee and Mike Tato. So I joined up with Rogues with the intent of like training to become a better fighter. And there for several years, that was my focus in terms of playing Amtgard, was like wax. I was big into the the stick jock thing, getting the forearm out there and flexing it, winning tournaments and punching my thighs. And I would still say that is very much my relationship with, in terms of like fighting company, kind of the direction I'm going with it. But Rogue Company also had a bit of a transition where we wanted to redefine who we were, because there was a lot of bad nostalgia regarding rogues. And we wanted to be the new Coke, and reflavor it a little bit. Still Coke, but it's not. There's no cocaine in it anymore.
That's fair. Yeah.
So, and I would say we've done a pretty good job of that across the board. Jay Lee is the current company captain. Back in the day, it was Spin or Sven, as everybody knows him. And Jay Lee's definitely taken it a kinder direction, I would say. Less of the assholes, people that shouldn't exist in Amtgard, things that shouldn't be perpetuated in Amtgard. I think we've gotten rid of most of those. And any of the hazing that exists anymore is entirely consensual and between friends. And I would say generally not over the boat. There was that one time that JP got stabbed in the face with an actual sword, but I think that was his fault. They were posing for a picture and he walked into it.
Okay. All right. It's a little bit different.
Yeah, no. So, and I love the Rogue boys and girls and fam. They're all great. They've definitely, as a group, have always been there for me, type thing, right? Like, I don't necessarily always engage with them the way that I would like to, because I'm in Colorado and they're all based in Texas. But some of my best friends are in that group of people. Jaylee, Jamie, Kiara. They're some of the best people I know. Have some of the the integrity and determination and just like emotional intelligence of these people is amazing. So since I said all those really nice things, I also make sure that I say like Trent and Ariel and all the other guys too. So, but no, I love them to death. And yeah, they can be assholes from time to time, but I would also acknowledge that they are working on it, and we call each other out on it pretty frequently. So yeah, that's Rogue Company. I was in Wu-Tang for the longest time, which was a honor-based household here in Colorado, but a lot of the membership kind of died out a little bit. There was some internal stuff, so I took a step back from that. But I do like the lesson that they wanted to try to bring to Amtgard of being more communicative on field when fighting, acknowledging and accepting that maybe everybody's not actually cheating. Maybe they just actually missed something. We're a very fast combat game. Sometimes you just miss things, and that's okay. But the best way to resolve any of those concerns and issues is to communicate and talk about it with honesty. And that group definitely, they inspired that in me. So it is definitely, I think, a lesson that I've learned from them that I hope to perpetuate. Communicate, talk. You're gonna get amped up. It's Amtgard. We fight. Adrenaline gets going. Take a step back. Talk about the thing that's happened, and be friends because y'all got there as friends, right? So yeah, no, definitely props to Wu-Tang for that lesson. White Lotus. White Lotus is a group that I was technically, when they started allowing multi-company things, I was both in Rogue Company and that company. Rogue Company was my IK event company, and White Lotus was my Rivermore company. And White Lotus was we came together and we wanted to build up a group that helped inspire people to be the better versions of themselves in whatever path or whatever journey they wanted to take. Eventually, though, it got back to the point of where, yeah, multi-company stuff is allowed, but we don't really like it. So I'm an honorary household member of White Lotus in Rivermore. So still get to chat with those guys. And again, that group of people are some of my favorite people as well. Phil Wasta, Scott Fish, Maria Smotherman, they're all out of Rivermore, and they're all wonderful people. I love them to death.
Awesome. Cool.
And yeah, there's a couple other ones, but they're all smaller and have individual small meetings. Nothing.
I mean, you got an AMP wiki. If people need to know, go take a peek. It's fine.
I do update that one from time to time too, so it should be mostly up to date.
It's long, y'all. If you're, oof. I wish I didn't prepare for these episodes, because I read just okay, can you stop doing stuff? Please. All right. Shroud Stars had this question since like episode 20 something, and I love it. If you could create a ladder award in Amp Guard that doesn't already exist, what would it be for and what would you name it?
Oh, damn. Yo, fam. So I already did this.
Oh, okay.
We called it the Order of the Crown.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you.
I cannot take full, apparently the conversation for Order of the Crown had existed 20 years ago. It's been around long before I was ever playing Amp Guard. But when we put our team together, it was Goldcrest, myself, and Cage out of Crystal Groves. And we eventually, Goldcrest took a step back when he had some stuff going down. And then Fuzz out of CG stepped up. And he had access to folks that were willing to like write out a full, like, this is what it should look like crown write up. And we worked over it, took the information and data that we pulled from all of the surveys that we had ran, and then applied it to this workout write up, and then gave that to the CLN and said, what about this? And they approved it. How it's organized, I would definitely still like to change that. But again, not my Amp Guard. So we did used to joke, though, that sometimes when I go into the whole, like, what is the ideal Amp Guard look like, we would call that Society of Cadevans Amp Guard, SCA. So we had some fun with that one. Now I would definitely say I would like to see more awards around like the fun factor, right? You have the Jovius Award, and I think that I love that award. I think a lot of the Kaporas that include that one, because it is a non-ladder award, included as kind of like a one-time array type thing. But I feel that that's something that we should celebrate far more often than just one time with one person. Like, every other award is hyper competitive. Every other award is like, you got to be the best of the best. Why do we only have one that says, have fun? Let's have more of those. So you can see a trend with all of the things that I kind of like harp on and focus on is have fun and focus on having fun. So if I could change any award, it would be Order of the Jovius. And I would just make that like not necessarily a ladder award, but a standardized award that like you can give out as many as you freaking want to. And that we celebrate, Joviousness in Amp Guard, like having a good time, being happy, enjoying your environment. Like, celebrate that. Let's celebrate. Sure. Let's make that the competitive thing.
Sure. Looking at the chat here, Dallin's broken in.
What's up, Dallin?
Forever thankful to Devin that we don't wear orange and gold.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That was somebody did want to push that for Crown. I was like, there's no fucking world where I say that that's okay. To the point, I don't actually think that the COM initially voted and approved that color combination. I just said, no, this is the color for it. I think they actually did go back and vote to approve, no, this is the color for it. But the initial conversation was somebody was like, what about this? I'm like, nope, it's black and gold.
I mean, gold. Orange and yellow wouldn't, or orange and gold wouldn't be a problem for me.
Absolutely. But the thing is, even if you look at that very nice, hood that you had made for you, there are other colors involved that balance out the garishness of gold and orange.
That's fair.
Gold and orange and just gold and orange, bad. Don't do it. Never. That is not an award combination that should exist ever. Don't do it. Same with yellow and gold. My knight, Medrin, I have 3, would say that it is perhaps one of the most atrocious things that you could do in terms of heraldry. And that is just because of like how heraldry worked coming through the ages. Same thing with like silver and white. They're the same color, azure. Yellow and gold are the same color, right? And there were certain colors that were not allowed to be put with each other for these reasons. Well, can you imagine people making a law being like, you can't wear orange and gold at the same time? It's just not allowed. I would vote yes on that.
I mean, many people would. I would be like, no, gaudy is fine. I'm okay with it. Dalen, I was also there that day that the crowns got passed. I was in the crowd in the audience learning how to be a monarch. And I was, yeah, sorry, I cut you off there, but
No,
Dallin,
you're good. You're good.
yeah,
It was a good time.
it was.
I was very mad then very happy during that event. I don't know if that was visible to everybody else.
Yes.
But
Yes,
there was
it
one
was.
point where I about flipped the fucking table.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was heated.
Oh,
When they went to break with a no vote,
yeah.
and you're like, all right, we're coming back and doing it again. We're gonna get it right this time. Yeah. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, there were some heated conversations. I had to take a step aside and breathe it out a little bit. And with people that I love, right? My knight was one of the people that I was like button heads with in that conversation, right? Like JP and I were arguing.
Yeah.
But again, there are times when I appreciate that too, because that's how we keep moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to agree on everything. I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so you kind of already did it, but now I'm going to make you do it again in a different way. If you could change one rule in Amtgard right now, what would you change?
Masterhood is not required for knighthood.
Okay, break it down for me.
I am very much on the side of the opinion that knighthood is entirely about character. Like skill is obviously an aspect of it, but it is a character award first. Mentorship kind of comes with it a little bit. But like when it comes to that award, those are the people that they're the mentors, they're the guides, they're the paragons, whatever it may be, right? They're the ones that have said, yes, I am okay being put on this pedestal to be seen by others as, what that thing to aspire to be like is, right? So we talked about like, what should you be doing when you come to Amtgard first, right? Having fun, right? And that's what, when it comes to knights versus masterhood, right? Like I feel like the knights should be taking that step back and making it the fun group, but also like ensuring that those things are perpetuated by sharing that information. So there's no secret. So everybody knows where they can go to have fun. Mastery is there's a couple different like interpretations of what masterhood is, right? We learned this during the surveys. Some people believe that like mastery is when you can teach it back to another person. My military experience taught me that, right? Like as you progress through your career, you then become a journeyman, you turn around and teach others how to do it.
Yeah.
And you progress further by teaching others how to do the thing. But for some people, and I agree with this point of view too, mastery is the continued pursuit for personal excellence. Whereas knighthood is not about you. And that's that difference, right? It's like personal excellence shouldn't be a facet of organizational support. And the two roles are very different in my opinion, right? I do feel that knighthood is a foundation of the organization, while masterhood is a pinnacle of the organization.
Okay.
So I would love to see them not considered like a requirement for the other. Because if you look at some of the toxicity that we've seen in the past, it's improved much better over the years. In the sword path, you have people going for warlord and like being aggressive and getting into every fight and like doing only that, nothing else matters. And then they're supposed to become a sword knight, and we have this concept that knights are supposed to be these very charismatic, good character individuals,
right?
And it doesn't match up with the path that they just fought. They just fought a war, right? They went on a war path and destroyed everybody in their path. And now we want them, if they want to become a knight, to then turn around and be like, hey guys, I apologize. That wasn't cool. Like, it's not honest.
So do you see a deviation at 10 where you ask the person, would you rather be a knight or a maester?
No.
Okay.
I think that masterhood, again, you can still pursue excellence as an individual, right? Always, that you can always push that bar and always push the bar higher, right? But when it comes to character and integrity, and then also having skill, like I don't think it requires mastery. And I think a lot of that is like, if you look at the warlord path, this is one where like the bar just kind of kept. Well, you got 4 tournament wins, but have you beat people from other kingdoms, right? So like that was 5, it was 6, then it was 7. I'm totally cool with masterhood being like that, right? For like, again, that pursuit of excellence, that pursuit of like being the best version of yourself, like we as a human race aren't there yet, right? So we're always going to be getting better.
Mhm.
But when it comes to knighthood and the foundation of the organization, I think that thing should be a little more steadfast and a little more concrete,
Okay.
and less focused on the pursuit of excellence and more focused on the pursuit of being good people doing these things. Again, character versus mastery of skill.
Sure.
I do think that 10 should be a requirement for it. Don't get me wrong. So I still feel that there should be a threshold. But once you get to
Right.
10, then you could qualify for mastery and you could qualify for knighthood.
Okay.
I mean, I'm
Okay.
also of the mindset that there should just be one path for knighthood, and that if you want to see what their masteries are, then that's how you figure out like which focuses they have, who to go to. But
Sure. Interesting. Okay. All right. We have a couple more questions, and we're going to get to the knighthood questions, and I'm going to try to keep moving so we
you're
don't
good.
lose you here. Still, I would like to know if you could tell us 5 up and comers that you'd like to promote right now.
Well, these are going to be my squires.
Okay.
No, this is not all of them are going to be my squires, actually. Some of them aren't necessarily up and comers anymore. Actually, you were at the event. You got to watch Cassio receive her Master Lion for her XCOM work. She's been playing less than 4 years.
Huh?
Like it's insane how involved with the organization Cassio has gotten, and how much love she's put into the organization. Like working with her on the XCOM, it was a blast. It was humbling as well. Like the amount of energy she was willing to put in, the honesty that she brought to the table, and just like her own humility. It's fantastic. So Cassio, if you're watching this, I know that you were asked a question regarding knighthood. I know these things. I've talked to that person, and we should set up a time to reconsider that conversation, because I feel you exemplify that example of what it means to be a knight in our organization, of coming out, having fun, having a blast, wanting to improve yourself as a person, but also setting an example by going for that excellence, right? Like mastery and knighthood. Cassio's great. The next one is actually going to be here in the Iron Mountains. Azradeth, Robin, as they go by in Amtgard. And they have been a super energetic individual. They started just before COVID hit, and they have put a lot of passion into the organization in wanting to be a good leader, to wanting to do the role correctly, but to also just be involved with the group. They are very new to the organization, still a lot to learn, but I have a lot of faith in them as well. So it's great to see younger individuals participating in the organization with that much passion. It makes me feel good in my heart and my soul. Next one is Soup. Soup is another my squire. Cassio and Soup are both my squires, and she's out in CG doing her very best. I have had a ton of fun. She's like so freaking knowledgeable when it comes to the rules. Like I thought I knew people who were like rules lawyers, right? And we say rules lawyers, and you kind of have that negative connotation of like people who are kind of a dick about it.
Yeah, trying to break the game, maybe.
Yeah, the metagaming, right?
Yeah.
Soup doesn't do that. And Soup is very kind about making corrections regarding how the rules work, and is also correct pretty much every single time. Nice. A lot of the rules lawyers that I've ran into aren't always correct, and they're usually dicks about it. So it's really great to see her come into the conversation and be like, no, this is how this, switch the book, this, like, it could be any topic regarding how gameplay works, and she has it. She's on it. She knows it like right off the back of her hand. And oftentimes doesn't have the book open at all. She's like, no, this is how this works. Here you go. So she is wonderful with that. So, and that translates into game making and battle games, and expands into events themselves. So part of going out to Feast of the Dead was getting to see my squire run battle games out there. She was the warcrat for that event, and I had so much fun playing an ice elementalist elemental with her for those games, and then just like getting to play some of the other games, Paragons versus the World, and yeah, ton of fun, a lot of fun playing those battle games. So yeah, she is fantastic, and she really wants to get into service outside of just event running and battle game making. She actually recently lost an election for Monarch Queen by like a vote, like one vote.
Dang.
Yeah, and it wasn't like it was like 5 people voted and 4 people. It was like 20s, mid 20s for one less for her, and then like another person was running. So it was a 3-way run, and she lost by 1. I was like, that is so close. And she's still excited to participate and be a part of leadership, and that is good to see in anybody. It's not an easy thing to lose an election and then turn around and say, let's go have fun. And she does it. It's great. Let's see. Those are top 3. Mm-hmm. This one's going to be in Rivermore. Blue. I don't know if anybody has seen any of their TikTok experience, but it is a ton of fun. They bring to life all of these various types of characters, role play characters, do a lot of makeup, and they're fae-like creatures, tiefling-like creatures, dragons, of every gender, and they bring them to life and bring them onto TikTok and have fun with it. They also bring them out to Amtgard and have fun at Amtgard with it as well. They have entered their makeup as Dragon Master entries, and that has been super cool to see, because it's like a direction of Amtgard that you don't often see, because it's always like this art thing that's like just over here that hangs on the wall, not the you see garb, you see equipment, but not the persona itself come out. And that they do that and have the bravery to do it in the first place, the courage to come out and do that, like it takes a lot, right? Because we already come out playing in garb, and for some people that can be kind of like that's the line for them. Going a little further over and diving into the role play, there's that weird, like, same thing with just singing or speaking in front of a crowd. It's that next step that's kind of difficult to do, and they just said, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and portray all of these various identities and characters on the field and have fun with it. They're also like really into, again, service as a whole. So I think some of this persona stuff grew from them kind of being a spokesperson for Rivermore and for the various groups that they represent. So they're taking a break right now from leadership as a whole, which is, again, highly recommend everybody take the time that they need to kind of focus on the things that they enjoy. And this is a thing that they enjoy and have brought to life, and it's amazing. It's like cosplay, but at Amtgard, and I love that. Another thing that Azure Death is also pretty good with as well, Robin. So yeah, and last one, I'm actually going to do a shout out to Lightning. Lightning has, as the rest of us have, right, dove headfirst into our organization that is Amtgard, and as the exact opposite of my experience, and as I'm sure your experience, right? I'm a white dude with 10 years in the military, and I'm used to people not really telling me no. Like, even in an organization that is volunteer, if I ask somebody to do a thing, more often than not, the answer is yes. And sometimes I don't know if that's my own experience as a dude, but Lightning comes into this environment that is hyper masculine and very toxic in a lot of ways, and very sexist in a lot of ways, and acknowledges that she has like some things to overcome to like face these challenges, and just faces them anyway every single time. For like the last 5 years that I've known Lightning, she has always done that. She's always been like, I see the status quo, I'm just going to go right through it, and be super humble about it the whole time. And she is wonderful about that. To the point of where I definitely want to make the point clear, Lightning, it's okay. You can pat yourself on the back sometime. It's all right. You've done amazing work for the organization. She has gathered the data on some of the disparity in awards recognition, which highlighted her to me as a person that I wanted to recruit for the awards committee. So I recommended her to join on the team, and she did, and she's been instrumental in carrying through, like, presenting the survey data in a as little bias as possible. It's there's always bias, but she's done a fantastic job of it. and acknowledges that like these are things that are difficult for her, and then still gets up every day, goes out, and faces them. I think if you're watching this year's Circle of Monarchs meeting, we have a joke back in Yarn Mountains that like you could hear the lightning go kaboom as it hit when she came in with some of the facts that she dropped on the COM.
Yep.
Of like, no, these things are a problem, and you are the body that can fix it. So do that.
Yeah,
it was amazing. So good job, Lightning. So yeah, those are my 5 off the top of my head. There's so many more though. There's so many good people. Yeah, but like those are the 5 that come to mind.
Well, and Cassio is in the audience, and you've already got the, but Lightning's a viewer, friend. She was just down here for DS's End Rain at Maze Maze.
Yeah, heard about that.
Yeah, super good. Oh, super. I
saw a lot of pictures. Yeah. I was envious.
Next time.
Yeah, we'll see if I have the time.
Yeah, for sure. All right, last question before we get to Knighthood. What's your thoughts on Battle Knight?
It's this kind of, so some of the higher like changing of things gets into the area where I'd like to kind of take a step back and let other people's opinion have a little bit of weight. But this is one where I'm like, I like the idea of the knighthood for playing on the field of Amcard. I know we had Paragon for the longest time, but that wasn't standardized. And I feel that making Battle Knight will help standardize some of that and remove some of the frustration around like, well, I've done all these things for Paragon, like, right? But here's the actual standardizations of what we're looking for. Winning in a battle game is not it. We want you to also understand the rules and play with people and have fun. That's a thing that I keep like kind of adding on to a lot of the awards and recognition anymore for me is like fun. And I feel like this award has the potential to be a thing that resolves some of those frustrations for me of recognizing people for being a fun person to play with too. Like, yeah, you're winning in the battle games, but some of the higher level awards in Battle Knight require that you are also a leader on the field. And just running into your opponent with sheer will and aggression isn't necessarily going to inspire people. That's not necessarily charisma. It can be a charismatic act, right? That makes you go, all right, well, we're going. But like the higher level awards require that you are a leader on the field and that you can like direct people and bring them together. And oftentimes in our organization that requires you being a fun individual. So I like it. I do feel that it should be under Sword Path if we're going to maintain those 4 paths.
Okay.
And the reason being is because I only want to see one path for Knighthood. I don't want to see multiple paths. What I would also like to see is like we have the one path for Knighthood and we have a ton of Masterhoods. Like not just like one for tournaments, one for battle games. I mean, I would love to see tournaments, battle games, team fighting, archery, getting into the art stuff like 2D painting, 3D painting, digital art. I would love to see masterhoods for each of those paths. So essentially the mastery is no longer a specific like path, but that individual person's pursuit of mastery is what's being recognized. And then the knighthood being character. So yeah, that's
I don't disagree with the idea of there being one knighthood, but I feel like expanding it to the point where we're like, all right, listen, the reason it's not in Sword is because it covers a different part of the game technically, but eventually we'll have so many of those. We'll be like, guys, let's just make all of these masteries and then make knighthood the character part of that.
And that's kind of like, again, that's that ideal scenario, right? So that's why I would love to not see knighthood continue to break out and for more paths. But again, I won't be upset if that is not the direction that it goes. I will make my case of what direction I think it should go, and if people want to follow that, they can follow that. If they don't, I'll still come out and whack.
Well, and we disagree on the battle where Battle Knight should be, but it seems like there's a reasonable like objective that we can both agree on. That
and also if it's like one of the things won't pass or not pass, like I'll be like, all right, look, I like the idea of this thing, but not so much that I'm willing to like burn bridges and not have fun with it. I'd be like, all right, if this is what it looks like, that's absolutely okay.
Sure.
Because I ultimately would prefer that people get recognized for those things, and that it helps standardize and like resolve some of the weird frustrations of a lack of organization.
Awesome. Yes, absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. All right, we're in knighthood questions. Damon, I believe, has the starter for this one. What makes a good knight?
Knowing when to put your ego down. Listening.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Listening.
All right. You have three of them, but maybe the answer is not one of them. Who's the knight that you admire most and why?
Smiley. He's not my knight, but I admire him the most. He is always willing to challenge like his own personal beliefs regarding how things work.
Mhm.
And like reevaluate that for himself and readjust his perspective regarding those things to be more accepting, to be more honorable, I think is a term for it. He is a very good person. I love him. Like, he's a great person. He is always fun to be with, always fun to be around. Negative things could be going down, and Smiley is like, all right, smile on my face, let's go. Right? Like, the name is it's one and the same, but he's always been like that. From the day that I met him years ago, he's always been just a very positive person. And he comes from a background that I am familiar with, like, Southeast Texas, very religious. And he's kept that faith throughout questioning himself and the world around him. And then also bringing people to that faith in that positive way. And that translates very well into regard of him being like a very happy person, or at least a fun person to be around and interact with, and then like inspiring that the people that he engages with and interacts with. So I love that. That is what I want to be like when I grow up, is Smiley.
Yep, everyone loves Smiley. I'm a little salty he knocked me out of the Burning Lands tournament, but whatever, no big deal.
See, he's always improving.
He did say "I love you" before we started fighting, and I said it back, and I felt like there was a moment, and then he killed me. But whatever, it's fine. Smiley, I still love you. And also, he motivated me to shave my beard in the middle of a pandemic.
Oh man, so, I do remember that. I was like, I will pay money for y'all to not do that.
Right. Right. I don't know if I need to ask this, but we will. Paladin or anti-paladin?
Paladin.
Yeah. That one seems pretty easy. What's your opinion of the classes being opened?
Love it.
Okay.
Cool. There's a part of me that likes the idea of like prestige, or like a thing that's just for like people once they've earned the thing. But I also feel like the expectations that we have around knighthood versus the my idea of what would be fun for people to have like as a prestige thing is like, after a year you get this prestige thing. Like, and I think that's what we've created, right? Like, you have to have Paragon and then you can play these classes. Yeah. And that is far closer to what I would feel as a reasonable expectation to play a prestige class in a LARP game, not 10 years of blood, sweat, and tears and service. And yeah, I like the idea of having prestige things, or like things that are just for fewer folks. Mm-hmm. But I also like for those things to be way more accessible than knighthood currently is.
Sure.
So I am very happy with how they've opened it all.
Okay, cool. Has your opinion of knighthood changed since you've been belted?
Yes and no. I definitely would say that like the multi-path thing was something that I've changed my opinion on. I'm definitely of the one path mindset now. Mm-hmm. Definitely like knighthood is character, period. Like that is my opinion now. But when I started pushing for knighthood, my intent was I wanted to earn knighthood in every path that Amtgard had. And then once I got to that point, I wanted to turn around and step in on like to an awards committee, because at the time that didn't exist. This was 2013 when I came up with this idea, and say, this is too much. Like, I am financially well-off person with a lot of energy, physicality, intelligence, and time to organize and do all of these things and put money into affording to be able to do all of these things at the same time, it shouldn't be this hard for everyone else. Like, I saw the path, I did the path, did all of it, right? And that sucked. It should not be this hard for everybody else. That's kind of always been my mindset with knighthood. The thing that has changed is that path thing of actually masterhood. It's okay for it to be that hard. In fact, if it gets harder every single year, that's okay too, in my opinion.
Okay.
If knighthood is not tied to it and is recognized as a character thing. If they are tied together, I do not want that to happen. Because we look up to our knights because they are good people that do the things we like. Not necessarily because they're just really good. That's what masterhood's for.
As you're saying that, I'm reflecting on an Amcard Leadership University JP's on, and essentially says the same exact thing.
I mean, we've had that conversation in depth, not only of like that's the thing we would like to see, but also like what does that look like in Amcard realistically? Because that's the conversation that really starts. You can talk about idealism, right? But then you have to go, okay, we know what we ideally like, but what does that look like at Amcard, and how do we get there?
Yeah.
How do you engage with people who don't agree with you and bring them to your side of the table? What arguments, what things do they value that would help, change their mind on this topic? And yeah, I would say probably several hundred hours discussed this one topic alone.
To be a fly on the wall for those conversations. I love talking about knighthood. It's one of those things that when I joined the game and Sir Randall was just tell stories, and I would just sit there cross-legged and tell me more.
Randall is Ben's every story that Ben has to say, whether it's about knighthood or it's about his experience at Wendy's that day. They're fun.
Yeah. Also in that same football chat. So
I figured as much. It makes sense.
Yeah, I love it.
He and Bill are so close.
They are. It's good because they play off each other's jokes, and you just get to ride the wave of awesome.
Oh
and
yeah,
then,
it's a great feeling.
Yeah, it really is. Still, I would like to know you gave us your top 5 up and comers just a minute ago. Tell us your top 5 future knights.
Well, obviously, Lightning. We won't say the same 5. I'll actually find 5 different folks.
Okay.
Give me a quick second though to think about it, and it be fair to be like, oh yeah, Lial out in Crystal Groves, who is getting knighted in like March.
Right.
Like that's not fair. It can't be my own. Dang, I made it hard on myself. So here in the Iron Mountains, we have 2 folks that come immediately to mind.
Okay.
It's Dash and Theric, each for completely different reasons. Theric, I love him to death. He's great, very good with battle games, very good with like gameplay, very good at like making things that are fun for the Iron Mountains. Right, really has a pulse on what his group up in Fort Collins really enjoys, and always brings that to the table. I would love to see Theric become a knight. I would also love for Theric to wear some garb.
That's got to be a step in there, right? Like, if you're,
and of course, that's my one rant. But if he came up in the Circle of Knights right now, I would yes vote. Yeah, he's a great kid. And then Dasha. Sorry, not Dasha. Dash. So we just got another player named Dasha, and she's also great, but in her formative years. But Dash, they are awesome in the context of like they're always present and always like prepared. I think it's like the right word for it. But they definitely give you the feel of this person has their shit together. And that's always a thing that you like to see in people who are aspiring leaders, or in their case, are leaders for their group. So yeah, they're great. I look forward to both of them becoming knights in the very near future. We have a couple other folks out in Iron Mountains that I would love to eventually see become knights that aren't necessarily close yet, but like definitely will be going down that path, right? Our most recent monarch here in the Iron Mountains, they had to take a step down just because life got really crazy, personal life. And then also we're coming out of COVID right into this stuff. That's, when you try to take on too much, it can be sometimes too much. And they had been, you know, in fifth gear since like months before the rain even started. So technically I say they did their time, but Stanley has a lot of love for the organization. For them, Amgard was a safe place for them, and they wanted to perpetuate that. They've been playing for a little over 3.5, almost 4 years now, and they wanted to like continue to build up this group that welcomed them with open arms. Right. One of their projects right now that they have going is the Front Gate project. It's taken a little bit of hiatus, obviously, with them taking a break, but the concept behind it is to focus on how do we engage with those new players. Right. So like, what is the thing that, you know, how do we deal with them? So we don't have the one kid that's very excited about his garb that day being the only person that talks to the new people, right? Like acknowledging that maybe we're not that great at first interactions. And then kind of setting up ourselves for success by going, okay, how can we improve that? So we know we're not good at these first interactions. So why? What things have we not been good at? What things do we do that drive people away? What things can we perpetuate that bring people in? And that is a conversation that they were very big in starting up towards the beginning of this year, going into their monarchy reign. So yeah, I would love to see them as a knight very soon. Let's see. I'm really bad with names. I have faces, so let me think of the name really quick. I don't think anybody, at least in the western side of Amgard, would know this person. But they're actually two people in my extended belted family, and both of them in their own right are great, and both of them have kind of taken a little bit of a hiatus right now. But the thing that I love about both of them is the pulse that they do have on their community around them, but also their garb game. It is amazing. And that is Paris and Abby. Abby lives up in, at least the last I know, I actually may be out of date on this information, Fredonia, which is just a little west of Rochester.
Ooh, Fredonia!
Right,
that's that's the college I went to. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So yeah. She is an alumni there, and her garb game is hopping. And I know she's taking a break with college and things like that going on right now, but would love to see her as a knight someday. Because again, the focus on like the look, right, and like making it look better, making Amgard look nicer and more fun. Same thing with Paris. She plays a lot of various types of LARPs on the East Coast. Dammering was one she was telling us a lot about whenever we were visiting at Feast of the Dead, where like they go all out in building up these LARP environments, and like they fully immerse themselves in garb, in persona, and environment as much as they can. And like hearing and engaging with somebody who talks about these things that way makes me want to just like do more at Amgard. And like that is the experience that I see everybody have with Paris when they engage with her. Nice. Is that like she's getting people excited about doing more garb, doing more like immersive garb, not just like, oh yeah, here's my tunic, here's my pants, here's my boots, but like full on, hey, I also wear these like gold jewels because of my persona. I am a noble from this family, and this is why this is a valuable thing to me. And just like those kinds of engagements remind me that that's like a level of immersion that we could get to that we're not at. And she always is just a ton of fun to engage with and on those topics. So yeah, those are my 5.
Yeah. Shout out Fredonia. That wasn't supposed to happen. Anwin, as the park there.
Yep.
I never played for their park, but I went home to visit once and I got a hold of their local monarchy. I'm like, hey, I'm in town for this week. And nicest people in the world, obviously, because they're Western New Yorkers. They love me. It was a great time. Great time. Awesome shout out. I love it. All right. Last knighthood question before we get to the most difficult questions on KOK. We call them the funny questions. Tell us about your belt line.
Oh, man. So we'll just go ahead and the extended family that I have under 3 belts is a lot. The relationships that I'm closest to are the ones under Medrin. And that is because, I mean, I live in the same state as Medrin, and yeah. But Frank was my first knight, and through him, I have a squire brother, JP, the one that got the sword in the face when he accidentally ran into one during a picture shoot. Love it, JP. How you got a sword in your face, I still to this day don't know. But, you know, situational awareness, very important, folks. Don't put your face at the tip of a sword.
Don't do that.
As far as Raina goes, there's actually none of the other members of that family I think are even still active anymore. That's a very old belt line that goes back really far in like Texas Amp Guard. But for Medrin's belt line, I have several squire brothers and squire sisters, several which are also knighted now. So under Medrin, we have myself, Kelladry, my fiance, Aaron or Loxus out of Rivermore, now Iante, also out of Rivermore. There's going to be a couple of names that I, for the sake of me, since I'm put on the spot, will not be able to test. There it is. Tess is on the line, and Eris is in our line, and oh man, I'm friends with Beth. I think she went with Unknown as a Amp name. I can't remember. She had a really funny like moniker of how she spelled her name that you're like, wait a second, does it say a different word? Yeah. But the later half that I named, they're inactive right now. But the former Loxus, Iante, myself, Kelladry, we're all fairly active and have a number of squires between all of us, and another belt fam, and they are a ton of fun. Spicy is a word we have for it. Salty is another word that we have for it. I think right now I recently renamed our belted family chat with Medrin. Where is it? It's very good. I gotta find it though, because I can't remember some of these offshoot names. Oh yeah, there it is. Oh my goodness, Facebook, why are you like this? Sir Medrin's Home for Rowdy Children. With the emphasis being on what's that old school Peregrine, right? Like the story of Miss Peregrine's Home for for children. So we nicknamed Medrin Miss Alma Peregrine in the chat. We're just all the various like misfit children with weird like things that we're really into, and then the rest of it's just pure chaos. So yeah, no, the group is overall, it's a great place for people to like communicate and talk for validation if they want it, or if they want to switch and they want criticism, or if they want any sort of like mentorship. Like there are so many different perspectives in that chat, and people with various talents that it's just a ton of fun to like go in and be like, hey, here's some things I'm working on, and like 4 different people can chime in with different thoughts that are all over. Yeah, so they're a great family.
Awesome. Okay, we're at the most difficult questions, and by my time, we have 6 minutes.
You can do 11 minutes. I can do 8:50 and still be all right, I think.
Ooh, okay. All right.
It's less of a snow now, more of a wet.
Well, for safety.
Yeah.
Still, I would like to know the coolest dog you've ever met.
The coolest dog I've ever met?
Yep. Here at KOK, we're trying to make sure that Valorimar could get through the questions, and now Valorimar is going to find a dog. So, well... Uh,
He is not happy. He was asleep on my armor, actually. Let me see if I can turn this off real quick. But no, my coolest dog was when I was growing up. I had a beagle um, Dotson mix, and he was so freaking smart and a shit. That was my favorite dog of all time. That's actually all a lie. This has all been a really big build up to get everybody's attention to talk about Tato's dog Mang. We actually didn't go to Feast of the Dead to see my squire on the field or to go to a nostalgic Amp-Guard event. We actually went because Tato lives in Virginia, Herndon, Virginia, and it was a very easy excuse to go meet Mang, who is the best dog, period. So if you follow Mike on Facebook, that's actually all his content is Mang. So
nice.
Yeah, no, Mang's the best.
Awesome. Okay. All right. What's your favorite dinosaur?
A Leopleurodon, Charlie. No. Man, that is a good one. That's a good one. Because nobody ever asks you what your favorite dinosaur is. I think I'd have to go with Velociraptor.
Okay. All
Velociraptor
right.
is very much like they're a social group that like work together as a team to be a very like terrifying predator, but like it's a social group, right? Like the T-Rex has always been kind of portrayed as this lone wolf type thing. You never really see them in a pack, but like the Velociraptors, at least the Jurassic Park movies that you always see, have always been pack family oriented. Any times that the Velociraptors were like tearing people to shreds, it was because they stole their kids or like fucked with them first. It was never because they were being cruel. It was because they were being very protective of their own and working together as a team to exact that revenge. And I think that was super cool as dinosaurs are concerned.
Okay, for sure. What about the best kind of dragon?
Oh yeah, man. This is actually it's a void dragon. I actually back in my earlier years, I vanquished a void dragon on Mars, as you well know.
Of course.
For those who don't know, that's a 40K reference. The Emperor of Mankind, or Rivermorekind as I'm called, vanquished a void dragon on Mars, who is presumed to also be a former Necron god that took the form of a dragon. It's weird mythos around it. 40K does a good job of not clarifying shit, so it's kind of up to your own imagination, which I love.
The orcs, if they believe it happens.
That is so cool. That orc magic stuff. I remember telling Brittany about it, who's trash talking me in our Belted family chat right now. Telling her about if they paint a thing red, it goes faster. So no, it's I love all of it. But yeah, I would definitely say kind of your Western styled dragon is my preferred like type. And that's mostly just because you get to see it a bunch in like our culture as far as white people go. The celestial dragons that you see like in Eastern mythology and stuff like that, I think are also very interesting. So like all dragons as a whole are cool.
Dragons,
with the exception of that company that was doing shitty stuff. Yes. But yeah, Dragon Spine, that's probably my favorite.
Yeah, fair enough. What about your favorite fictional knight?
Fictional knight. That would have to actually be a character from Knights Radiance, the Stormlight Archives I talked about, Dalinar. And Dalinar was... there's a lot of similarities in the story that Brandon Sanderson writes about this character in terms of like self-evaluation that this character goes through. One of the things I like about Brandon's books is he writes his characters with like big flaws, like very big flaws that make them like their interactions with others difficult at times. In the case of Dalinar had like dove headfirst into his very gendered society's role of being a warlord, like a true general on the field, absolute brutal warrior that like completely succumbed to a concept called it's almost like a battle rage, right? Where he just like fully immerses himself in pure adrenaline and becomes like next tier level fighter. And as he is going through various amounts of depression for like his brother being killed and then like his inability to save him type thing, he starts asking interpersonal questions like, what is the value of strength? Why is might what makes people right? Like, why is that actually, like, why can't people be honest? Why do we have to take things by right of arms? Why can't we take things by right of people? He asks himself a lot of these questions, but it gets back down to the point of like, it's a lot of people have difficulty engaging with him as a person asking these questions because he personified the absolute pinnacle of that, the negativity of the things he's now questioning. Like, he is the Blackthorn. He is the big warlord. So why the hell would you take the big warlord on? Why can't we be honest? Seriously, like, he sounds like a senile old man. But one of his biggest lessons is the most important step a man can take is the next one.
Okay.
And I fucking his storyline from going to like this character, you're like, oh, this dude's just like old and washed up, to like, oh, this dude used to be this big badass too. Oh, this dude is kind of going through it too. Oh no, everybody sees this weird like juxtaposition of this guy. Like, they see the irony of him asking these questions, and he acknowledges that, yeah, no, I did wrong. I did not do good things. I can't change those things, but I can ask for forgiveness and I can take the next step forward and accepting whatever decision you make on that. And I'm like, that hits.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Couple more questions here. And this one's selfish, so I would love to hear your answer. Is Kodiak more of a Jedi or a Sith?
Frustratingly, there is a Sith named Kodiak in one of the old lore books. Yeah. But like, also that was back when the Sith were just as large an army as the Jedi. So like, really, it was just like, who did he fall in line with? But Bane killed him pretty easily and pretty handily. So maybe he wasn't really a Sith. Maybe he was a Jedi all along. I would say though, the Kodiak that I know is a Jedi.
Hey. It's fair. It's more what Randall would say. Okay. Amcard is making a live action movie. Who is playing you?
Damian Lewis.
Okay. When they come out onto the screen, what is the theme song?
What's the opening song for Band of Brothers? For anybody who knows, for the longest time, everybody mistook me for Damian Lewis or said I looked like him, to the point of where I took a picture of him in Homeland in a Marine uniform when I was very clearly Air Force and posted it as my profile picture. And half of my friends were like, man, I didn't know you were a Marine. I thought you were Air Force. Like, they thought it was very funny. And then, yeah, so Band of Brothers was coming out when I was like just getting into like ROTC growing up. So that was Captain Winter's just always my nickname. So yeah, Damian Lewis playing that role would be very good.
All right, 2 minutes on the clock. I'm going to go ahead and skip to the either or questions so that we can get them in. Either or, apple juice or orange juice?
Orange juice.
Hot dog, is it a sandwich or a taco?
Well, the conversation is actually, is it a soup, salad, or sandwich? So it's a sandwich.
Fair enough.
There's no taco in that.
Ice cream or custard?
Oh, ice cream all day, man.
Waffle or pancakes?
Waffle.
How much is too much to pay for how much is too much to pay for breakfast?
Depends on the breakfast.
Favorite addition to a bowl of yogurt?
Cranberries and pralines.
Okay. All right. Final 4 questions. What is the square root of a bowl of oatmeal?
Oh, that is 43.
43. Can you, with as much detail as possible, not in this instance, explain what the color of the letter F smells like?
Oh man, it smells like tangerine.
Tangerine. Okay. All right. Morgan would like to know if you could meet anyone in history, who would it be and why? Is it Freddie Mercury?
I just want to know what we could have done better.
Okay.
To keep him here.
Okay. All right. Last question. Let me catch my breath. If it takes a chicken and a half, a day and a half to lay an egg and a half, how long would it take a grasshopper with a wooden leg to kick the seed out of a dill pickle?
3.14 seconds.
Fantastic. Pie. Valorimar, thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Absolutely.
Dragonspine, there is no announcements. We finished End Drain. Burning Lands had their End Drain. Go play games. Join Amcard. Play Amcard. Do Amcard. Valorimar, thank you so much.
Fun.
Have fun. Valorimar, thank you so much for coming on tonight. I appreciate you. Hopefully we'll get to see you in person soon.
I would love to come down there for this show. Maybe for that spring event y'all are talking about.
Yeah, hopefully. Fingers crossed. All right. Well, until next time, this has been Kingdom of Kodiak, and I'm Kodiak.